All right, and welcome to episode 3 of our show. And we've got something a little bit different today. We're going to be going over our top 10 Premier League players of the season so far. It's only been 5 games, but I think there's a lot to talk about, some interesting surprises. But first and foremost, Uzzi, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Look forward to dissecting our top 10.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And just before we begin, we should say this is, at least the way I've done it, this is not the top 10 players in the Premier League. This is the top 10 players we've seen on performance this season. So I'll kick it off. I think I've got some honorable mentions, some players who didn't quite make the list for me. The way I did it was I listed quite a few players that I thought were sort of in contention and then filtered away to 10. But there were 4 players in particular that were just on the fringes for me. And I had Ndiaye from Everton. I thought he was really impressive this season so far. Every time I watch him, he's second in take-ons at 17 compared to number 1, who's Kudus, who is another player on my honourable mentions from Tottenham, of course. I've really enjoyed watching Palace on the defensive end. I know that sounds a bit bizarre to enjoy a team defensively, but it's almost the same as last season, really solid at the back. And Mark Gahey was one who was just, again, on the fringes for me. Palace have conceded the fewest goals per match, only 2 so far this season. So, he was unlucky to miss out. But there was him, and then there was Gabriel as well for Arsenal, who there is another Arsenal defender on my list, but Gabriel just missed out for me. So let's start with number 10, Uzzi. I'll give you the honors. So who's in your 10th position?
There's actually a player you put on your honourable mentions. I've actually gone with Mohamed Kudus at Tottenham. I think he's had a really good start to life under Thomas Frank at Spurs. He's looked very lively. Obviously bought for huge money from West Ham. Didn't particularly go too down well with their fans, but he's really had a good start to life at Tottenham. I think he's completed the most amount of take-ons in the Premier League this season, which perhaps didn't really surprise me too much. We knew all about his qualities coming from West Ham, but of course, I think there are always players who I think become a little bit, I don't want to say stale, but I just think that particularly players like Kudus, who's played at high levels at Ajax, for example. So I just think towards the end of his time at West Ham, I think personally he just needed this whole. I think he just needed like a new change, perhaps being with better players, playing at the highest level in the Champions League, which he has done with Tottenham, which he is doing with Tottenham, of course. I think whenever players and there's another one who this does apply to, but we'll come to him later. I think whenever a player of Kudus's quality goes to a team like Tottenham, who still are in a bit of a project, as if we can put it that way. He's really taken life there like a duck to water. He's made. He's arguably he's been their best attacker by a long way, and probably their player of the season so far.
Yeah, I've actually got another Tottenham attacker. A little higher up on my list, which we'll get onto, but I'll go with my number 10, and I've gone with Tino Livermento from Newcastle. Now, for me, it was a bit of a toss-up between, it could have been any of that Newcastle backline of Pope, Botman, Livermento, Schär, or Trippier, but particularly Pope, Botman, and Livermento. And I've just gone with Livermento. Just for me, it's just been watching Newcastle, and he's been very solid for them. Newcastle have 4 clean sheets so far this season. That's the most in the league. They have the fewest expected goals at 2.5, which is a whole goal less than Arsenal, who are in second last place in terms of XGs. They've been so solid at the back, and Newcastle's issue has been on the other end, not necessarily in their defense, which is why they haven't had quite the start they would have wanted. But I've been really impressed by him. So let's go on to number 9. Uzzi, who's your number 9?
I don't know. I had a bit of a long think about this one, but I'm going to go with a Chelsea attacker. I've gone with Joao Pedro. I think maybe towards the end of his time at Brighton, he became quite like Kudus at West Ham. I thought maybe he became a little bit, I won't say stale, but I just think because he had a lot of quality. I think players like Pedro, for example, really for me was capable of playing at a high level, for example. And I think he started really well at Chelsea. I think he scored. I think he scored a brace in one of his games. I think against Fulham. He's really starting getting into his shell there. So I think Pedro in particular, and we all know Chelsea strikers have struggled in the past, but with the way he's going, he certainly there's enough like history might be repeating itself. I mean, I know he's young. He's only 24, but he's been quite good. He's been quite good for Chelsea so far. So I think if he can keep maintaining that level, I think he'll he'll keep getting more goals, and when you have players like Cole Palmer assisting you here now and again, he'll certainly be adding to his tally.
My number 9, and this is one where, listen, I don't think necessarily he's been the 9th best player in the league, but I have enjoyed this surprise, and I've actually gone with Richarlison. Now, I know he's got 3 goals so far this season and 1 assist. He got 2 goals in the opening Spurs' opening game against Burnley. Then didn't score for 3 games. Dropped off. He was dropped against West Ham in their game before last, but came back in against Brighton in their last game and got the goal. Got an important goal there to make it 3 goals for the season. But I think Richarlison. The reason I put him here is I was not super high on him going into the season. I thought he would probably be the same Richarlison as last year, but I've been pleasantly surprised, I would say, that he's managed to get some goals and he his decision making can get better still. I watched the last game against Brighton, and I thought there were some moments where his decision making can get better, but I think it's good to see a player who isn't dropping off, is still fighting for his place and has taken advantage with Solanke out. So let's move on to number 8. Uzzi, who's your number 8?
I've actually gone with a Brighton attacker. I'm going with Antoine Semenyo. I think he's been really, really good for Bournemouth so far this season. And we saw him on against Liverpool on that opening night where, he had their defense on the ropes for quite a bit of that game. And, he looked really, really sharp. Obviously what happened to him was really sad with the whole, a case of racist abuse, but got over that really, showed incredible maturity and ended up scoring. And even obviously that game aside, he's looked really, he's been really good for Bournemouth. He's always maintaining that threat, and always just for me probably their best attacker. I think for me he holds that whole attack together. And Bournemouth are a better team with him, or they're certainly a better team with him in it and for it. So. Now he's definitely, for me, he's been one of my the players of the season so far, and of course they are going to miss him when he does go for AFCON at the end of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on.
It's funny, I have Semenyo. I have him a lot higher up. So we'll get onto that a little bit later. My number 8, I've gone with Jurrien Timber. I did say I wanted an Arsenal defender in there, and obviously Arsenal have had critics in recent games and in certain games this season. I don't think anything you can doubt from Arsenal comes from their defense. They're giving us exactly what they've expected. Some may have put Calafiori in there, but I've been super impressed by Timber. He obviously got 2 goals and an assist against Leeds in that second game, which was brilliant from him. But he didn't start game 1 against United. He came straight back in, and we've seen why Timber plays. He is probably, in my eyes, one of the most consistent defenders in the Premier League, constantly giving you everything you expect of him. Game on strong, so smart. I would like to see a little bit more of him in an attacking sense down that right-hand side, supporting Madueke or Saka. He does that at times. I think he has that in him, but I think he's also trying to conserve some energy. I don't think necessarily he's been Arsenal's most important defender. I think that's been Gabriel. Gabriel holds everything together, but I think in terms of individual displays, I've been super impressed by Timber, and that's why I put him number 8. So number 7, who have you gone with?
Another player that you had in your honourable mentions, I've gone with Iliman Ndiaye at Everton. I think whenever I've seen it, or whenever I have caught glimpses of Everton matches, he's always caught my eye. And, that was no different last year as well. I saw him against Brighton early in the season. I thought he absolutely ran the show. I mean, he was absolutely brilliant. I know Jack Grealish got a lot of the attention because I know he got two assists that day. But Ndiaye is just like one of those players, you could just watch. Ndiaye for Everton is what Eze was for Palace for a lot of those years. He would just glide through players effortlessly, and he would make things happen. He's got a few goals as well. He's got like 2-3 goals, so of course that's great for them with contributing when possible. Of course, if he adds more goals to his game, he'll certainly be I won't say of interest to perhaps to maybe those bigger sides in Europe, but he's just a delight to watch. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the Premier League. Because I remember he was at Sheffield United, and then he went to Marseille. Didn't have a great time there for whatever reason. But he's come to Everton, and he's just completely a player reborn under David Moyes.
He is one player I love to watch as well, honestly. I think we said this in earlier episodes as well. Last season as well for me, he's so exciting to watch, so dangerous. If I was an Everton fan, I'd love him. My number 7 is one player I wasn't too familiar with. I watched him a couple times last season, just once or twice for Burnley last season, but that's Jadon Anthony. And he obviously scored on the weekend. He's tied second in goals with 3 goals. Signed from Bournemouth 2 years ago for, I don't know if he was on loan and then signed, but they signed him for 7 million. He got 8 goals in the championship last year, but he just looks like a stronger player this year. And I think it's always exciting to see when promoted teams come up. Who's one of their special players, someone is going to make things happen for them, is going to kind of show that little bit of extra talent, which any promoted side needs if they want to stay in the league. And I've been super, super impressed by him. Another player I've just enjoyed watching. And he's one of those who always looks like he wants to score. And that's what Burnley need. They need that spark up front. So, I've been super impressed by him, and, I put him at number 7. So let's go into number 6. Uzzi, who's your number 6?
I've gone with another promoted attacker, but not the one you've just said. I've gone with Wilson Isidore from Sunderland. I think he has been absolutely excellent so far this year. I think he scored in all of Sunderland's home games, if I'm not mistaken. He scored against West Ham, Brentford, unfortunately, and Aston Villa on the weekend. So I think he's had an incredible start to the season. I think he's got 3 goals already, and they've all come at home. So, certainly he loves home comforts. Is certainly his specialty. But just going away from that, he's been brilliant. Great player to watch, of course. He's very versatile in attack, can play up front, sometimes play out wide. But yeah, he's been absolutely incredible for Sunderland so far, and they're certainly going to need him. They're going to need him to keep him fit and firing. If they are to stay up and stabilize themselves in the league, in the years to come. He's been incredible so far, and you can tell that. I mean, because he's a relatively young player. I think just turned 25. I mean, particularly for promoted attackers, you touched upon it with Anthony. But with players like him and Isidore, it's like there's such a huge weight on their shoulders for them to perform for their sides. But they haven't shown any real signs of pressure in a way. It's like, in fact, they probably revel in it. They having to step up for their team every week. They don't look at it as some sort of challenge. They just look at it and think, okay, we got to do what we got to do. And, both of them are absolutely flying at the moment. So I've gone with Isidore because I think, particularly for a promoted attacker, making that jump up from the Championship to the Premier League can be a very difficult transition. We've seen it with loads of players, but Isidore is certainly not, he's certainly taken to life in the Premier League like a duck to water.
My number 6, I've gone with Moise Caicedo from Chelsea, and I don't think a spectacular player, but I've really enjoyed his consistency over the last couple of years for Chelsea. And, it was interesting to see against Brentford when you guys basically had to man mark him in that first half to try and cut out passing lanes. And that was really successful. But I think that's credit to him for being such an important player to Chelsea. He scored a brilliant goal that game. He's got 2 goals this season. He's top of the Premier League in interceptions with 15. And I love the intensity that he plays at for Chelsea. Listen, what did they sign him for? 100+ million. But, how many players can be worth that money? But he is looking like a top midfielder and, young player. I think he's been brilliant. I think he's going to continue to have a really good season. I just don't see him. I think he's just, again, another very consistent player. Obviously, he's a bit of he likes to put his foot in, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to be honest. In midfield, you need that from your midfielders. So, yeah, he's been brilliant for me, and he's my number 6. So, number 5, who have you got?
Number 5, I've gone with Hugo Ekitike. Now, I know he hasn't, obviously he hasn't had he scored loads amount of goals, but I think he's been very integral to the way Liverpool have played so far. I think he's really, obviously signed for huge money from Eintracht Frankfurt after only just one season there, and he doesn't he hasn't shown signs of say a huge price tag. Sometimes we've seen that with a lot of players. It can be difficult for them, but I don't think he's shown any signs of succumbing to any pressure at all. I think he's been really good for Liverpool. Scored 3 goals to them already. Scored a really good goal on the weekend against the Merseyside derby. So, but I think he's been really good for Liverpool so far. I think he's always made himself involved, scored, putting himself about for the team. And I think, of course, obviously with Isak coming in, would he be starting every week? We don't know, but I've been quite impressed with him so far. He's done really well for Liverpool, and I think he'll obviously over the course of the season, I think he'll see when you've got players like Salah and Isak to feed off. I'm sure he'll add a lot more to his tally.
Yeah, and he's another one who who may make an appearance in a couple minutes for me. But my number 5 is Jack Grealish. So we spoke about an Everton attacking in Dyer on the right wing, Grealish on the left. And I think we knew this season that this would be a good move for Grealish. I think all signs sort of, you would think this is a good move for Jack. Consistent minutes for him at the left wing. He's in a team of players who need to prove themselves as well. Drewsbury Hall. You got a new striker in Thierry Barry. Eto is solid. He's not going to set the world alight, but I do like their attacking options. But Grealish, I think ever since we saw him start that first game for Everton, where he got 2 assists, he's first in chances created at 13. He's second in big chances created at 3. He's first in assists. He's got 4 assists. I think it's the perfect scenario for him. He looks like I won't say the old Jack Grealish, because I think the old Jack Grealish has always been there, but I think it's the freedom, right? The freedom to play how he wants to. It makes a huge difference for him, and it's brilliant. And honestly, for England as well, this is big, because England's left wing, obviously Anthony Gordon's a huge option there, but imagine you can go in with an informed Anthony Gordon and an informed Jack Grealish into next year's World Cup. I mean, it's massive for them. So, Grealish, listen, it's only been 4 or 5 games for him. He needs to kind of keep his foot on the gas, but in terms of what we've seen so far, it's looking like a really good fit. It's looking like a hungry Jack Grealish. I mean, even against Liverpool in the last game, I thought he was Everton's probably most dangerous player at times, and it's a great outlet for them to have on that left wing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to watching him a bit more this season. Let's move on to number 4. Uzzi, who have you got?
I've gone with another Tottenham player. I've gone with Joao Palhinha, who I think has been an absolute. I spoke about Kudus being such a game-changing revelation for them on the attacking right, but not going back into central midfield. I think he's been an exceptional coup for Spurs since they got him in on loan from Bayern Munich. And of course, having that Premier League experience with Fulham, I think was a huge help, given the fact that he is Premier League proven and experienced. But he's been an exceptional buy, especially when you consider the fact that Spurs didn't really have a natural number 6, somebody who can control their midfield and allow players like Sarr, Bergvall, and the many others that they have in that department play their game and have more freedom. So I think having him in there has really, for me, and how he's dictated the way that they play. I think he's been so integral to how Spurs play, how Thomas Frank wants them to play. I think he's been an absolute brilliant signing so far, and I think if he was, of course, I think keeping him fit will be very integral to them having a good season, whether it be through the Champions League or domestic cup competitions. But he's been an incredible signing so far, and if they can keep him fit, then because for me he holds their midfield together. So keeping him fit is, for me, key for them having a good season.
I mean, it's a brilliant deal for Spurs to get him on a season loan, and with an option to buy for only around, I think it's like £27 million or something. It's a great option. But my number 4 is a player you just mentioned, and that is Hugo Ekitike. So you said everything that needs to be said, but I think the reason I've gone 4th over 5th or higher or a bit further back on that list is put the goals aside. He scored 3 goals, great, but there's been so much that I've been impressed with in just the player that he is. I think you watch him and you can say, this is more than just a goal scorer. This is actually a good player. Almost reminds me very Isak-esque, like very talented with his feet for being that tall. Scored opening night against Bournemouth, so showed no nerves in his first Premier League game. Then against Newcastle, backed it up in the next games. He didn't really need time to bed in, and then obviously on the weekend against Everton again, and he started both games with Isak out, and he's done nothing to suggest Isak should come back in, right? He's done nothing wrong at all, and he just looks like a good striker. This is not a striker on a purple patch. This is just a player, I think, who's shown real quality, and we contrast it to Gyökeres, who he's almost a striker where you can tell he's a goal scorer. Ekitike, you can tell this guy's got kind of overall quality, and obviously he's so young, he's just going to improve. So I've been really impressed. He got 15 goals in the Bundesliga last year, and you obviously always wonder with players who get goals abroad in other leagues, how are they going to translate over? But he's just hit the ground running, and with the pressure of Isak on his back, he's not really shown any signs of slowing down. So that's a credit to him. But let's go into our top 3. So obviously these are our 3 best players. I reckon we've got 2 of the 3 who are the same, but let's see. Uzzi, who's your number 3?
I've gone with Dominik Szoboszlai. another Liverpool player, so it shouldn't be too. Oh, I guess when you've won all 5 of your games, it's not too surprising that you've got a lot of Liverpool players in this. But just that aside, he's just been. I mean, he's been great. He's just been great for Liverpool. Like every single game, every single league game that they play, he's been at worst an 8 out of 10. He's been so consistent for them, and he hasn't been playing in his natural preferred position. Yeah, we saw him, against Arsenal a few weeks ago. He has to play at right back, and he wasn't. He was brilliant there. Albeit he wasn't tested at all by the Arsenal left winger. But to play a right back against Arsenal and away at Newcastle as well, very hostile atmosphere. But he stood out incredibly in that. It goes to show, and still putting in 8 out of 10 performances, and that's at the worst, by the way. He's been a lot better than that. He's been absolutely unbelievable. And I think once players like Frimpong and Bradley are up to full fitness, you'll see him in central midfield, putting in more or less the same performances, covering every single blade of grass, running his socks off for the team. And I think, he's a dream for a manager like Arne Slot, because you'll know that he'll always put in 110% literally every single game. So great signing. Been great for Liverpool so far this season. And if they do go far, he'll be very integral in them doing that.
I think that's the right point you've just made. He is a manager's dream. When Liverpool signed him 2 years ago, I thought this was a brilliant signing. I thought he would fit perfectly into that midfield three, and he had a little bit of a slow first season, didn't start all the games. It wasn't exactly what we expected. Last season, very, very good. And this season, he looks like a leader. He looks versatile. He'll do anything for the team. I've gone with another Liverpool central midfielder to have at my number 3. And maybe one that's gone a little bit under the radar, but I've gone with Ryan Gravenberg. Now, obviously, amazing year last year from Gravenberg. A young player of the year. He played 37 out of 38 of the Premier League games last year. He was only rested against Chelsea after their League Cup final, so integral to their team. He had a brilliant Merseyside derby last weekend, man of the match, got a goal, brilliant goal, a very nice assist as well, having gone 16 months without a Premier League goal. But he's one of those players he's very Busquets-esque for me. He's so elegant and composed on the ball. And when I watch him, I think his greatest quality is how he uses his body to sort of outwit his opponents, if that makes sense. So that's what Busquets did so well. Obviously, Gravenberg not to that level, but that midfield of Gravenberg and Szoboszlai, when Szoboszlai does move in there, and then McAllister, in terms of leaders and how midfield 3 fits together, you don't really get much better than that. Szoboszlai's been getting a lot of the plaudits, and rightly so, but Gravenberg, I think it was that game over the weekend against Everton that made him stand out to me. I think it's funny because obviously he was the plan B to Zubimendi a couple seasons ago when Liverpool signed him, right? But it's not bad for plan B, is it? So yeah, Liverpool two of their 3 midfielders in our top 3, and that's a good reason, or a big reason, to why they're top of the league at the moment. Let's go into our top 2 players. So I'm wondering. I know one. I think we both know who one of them is going to be. I'm guessing the other one. I'm guessing the player you're about to say now is one I just said, but tell me who it is. Who's your number 2?
You're right. It is the one you've just said. It is Ryan Gravenberg.
Oh, is it? I thought you were going to... So Grealish isn't in your... Oh, wait, I won't spoil your number 1. I thought you were going to say Grealish. Oh, okay. Go for it. Yeah.
No, it is Ryan Gravenberg. You're right.
Okay.
You more or less said everything. You've more or less said everything I was going to say. But he has been, since he came to Liverpool, he's been an absolute revelation for them in midfield. I think because I remember he struggled badly. when I say badly, like he really struggled badly in his first year. I think he played 26 league games and he only started 12 of them. That's not even half. That's not even half. So I think it just goes to show you how much leaps and bounds he's come on since he's arrived at Liverpool. Of course, and you wouldn't think, going back to, you mentioned it with Zubimendi. I think we knew that having played just 26 Premier League games and started less than half of them, right? I think, many thought that Zubimendi coming in maybe actually would have limited his game time by a lot less than he played in his first year. But for Arne Slot to, put his arm around him and say to him, look, you're going to be my new number 6. And he has not looked back since. He has been absolutely brilliant. I know you've got players like Rodri, for example, who has been a great player. Maybe not at the level. I mean, he's been good. I mean, he's been great. Don't get me wrong, but maybe not recently. Not at the level he was before his ACL injury, which is understandable given his age. He's 30 next year. It happens. But Gravenberg has been probably like the best. Well, actually, for me, he is the best player in his position in the league right now. I know there are players like Caicedo and Rice who are absolutely brilliant in their own form, but Gravenberg has been absolutely brilliant. And as I said, for him to come on leaps and bounds, and for Slot to mentor him under his take him under his wing, give him some guidance, say to him, look, man, you're going to be my new number 6, and you're going to help me win this Premier League.
And it's funny, we talk about Szoboszlai, we talk about Gravenberg. These are two players who were signed, 2 seasons ago, or I should say, 3 seasons ago. And both didn't have kind of the explosive first seasons. And obviously, Gravenberg was very young back then. But now look at what they've blossomed into 2 years later, 2 of the best midfielders in the world. So my number 2, maybe I should have put him number 1. But my number 2 is Erling Haaland. And I don't think there needs to be much said about Haaland. He's obviously scored 6 goals this season, the most in the league. It's funny, he's coming off a somewhat disappointing 22 goal season last year, which I think pretty much every striker in the league would bite your hand off for. In Haaland's lofty standards, that was a little bit disappointing for him. But I have to say, so in the last game against Arsenal, which I was at, he was just a monster. He's an absolute monster. And there was Saliba and Gabriel. I watched them, and they can get the ball off any striker when the striker's pushing into them, right? Especially Saliba, he's very strong onto them and can nick the ball round. He can sort of whip his leg round and nick the ball. Haaland is the one striker I've seen that they cannot do that for. His ball protection is incredible, and he's not necessarily a target man, right? That's not the game that he wants. He wants to get in behind, but he's an absolute animal up front, and he looks, rejuvenated this season. I think he wants to have a better season than last, and I thought his link-up play against Arsenal was brilliant. I thought his hold-up play was brilliant, and he's doing what he does on the attacking end, and I think this Man City team lends to him having another good season. It's a little bit more, say, chaotic, maybe a little bit less structured than Pep has had in previous seasons, and I think he's going to have a brilliant season so far. He has in previous years had hot and cold patches, right? We have seen that from him, but I think he's going to be more consistent this year. It was just that performance at the Emirates that really highlighted it for me, where he's a complete player, and he just goes for it for 90 minutes. But I guess we're on to our number 1 right now. Uzzi, go for it. Tell me your number 1.
You've just said it. I have gone with Erling Haaland. I think it was a toss of a coin between Haaland and Gravenberg. I think Gravenberg, as we've just spoke about, has been absolutely brilliant for Liverpool so far. However, Erling Haaland, arguably, I'm sure we can both agree, probably the best striker on the planet right now. Guaranteed goals, wherever he is. He's got, you mentioned 6 league goals so far this season, and if City are to have any strong hopes of winning the title, it's certainly going to be because of keeping him fit and firing. That's for sure. I think he's, I saw, we saw him, or you of course saw him in person on Sunday, and you've got it absolutely bang on. We saw what he did for the goal on Sunday. Absolutely had Gabriel and Saliba right where he wanted. But for him to, Haaland, we know, is such a good big game player. He scored 7-8 goals against Arsenal in the time he's been in the league, and love scoring in derbies against Arsenal. So definitely a player that you want around for the big matches. So if City are to have a good season, in terms of winning the big trophies, league or possibly Champions League as well, they're certainly going to need to keep him in cotton wool for the next 8 or so months. So I think he's going to be integral to them having a good year. So, been a good start for him so far. You probably wouldn't bank against him having 20 league goals by the end of the year. So, definitely been probably my past player of the season so far, but, of course, a long way to go.
It's undeniable, really. But my number 1, so now I'm thinking, did I rank him a little bit too high? But to be honest, I'm just gonna go with what I feel, because I'm just gonna go with what I've seen, and a player I love players who show it consistently as well. I know we said we're not looking at the best 10 players in the league, but I like players who aren't just necessarily on a purple patch. They've shown a little bit. And that's why I've actually gone with Antoine Semenyo, someone that you had on your list, maybe a little bit lower down, but another player I've just really enjoyed watching. He's obviously tied second in goals this season with 3 goals, tied second in goals and assists. In 5, he got 2 assists. And I think you said earlier he's Bournemouth's most dangerous one of Bournemouth's most dangerous attacking players. For me, he is Bournemouth's most dangerous attacking player, without a doubt. Brooks is great, but I watch him, and he's 25 years old. I'm very, very surprised that he didn't get a move over the summer, to be honest with you, Uzzi. I'm very, very surprised. And he's sort of coming into his prime, and he's exactly what Bournemouth need, right? You need those players on the wing who aren't afraid, willing to take players on, and he's actually got the quality to back it up. I've watched him this season. I've really enjoyed watching him. I don't think he's got any signs of slowing down. I think he scored 11 goals last year in the Premier League, scored 8 before. So this isn't just a purple patch for him. He is genuinely a very good player. Player that I don't want to ever say players should be leaving teams, but I think he could be a quality asset too. I look at someone like Olise, right, who went from Palace to Bayern, right, and is performing at Bayern. I don't see why Semenyo couldn't go to another top European club. But listen, for the time being, Bournemouth fans should be absolutely delighted with him. And I think for me, he's made Bournemouth fun to watch, right? I love those players. When you watch a team, you're like, get the ball to him, right? It's the same with when you watch Everton and you want the ball to go to Grealish. It's with Man City, and you kind of, maybe not Man City, I mean, to an extent with Doku, you kind of want the ball to get to him, but obviously Semenyo and Grealish, they've got a bit more of an end product. But I love those players who carry a team and you want the ball to go to them every single time. And yes, he's not scored as many goals as Haaland, but he's been brilliant this season. And I think for me, listen, any of those players that we mentioned, probably 5 and onwards, could have been number 1. I wouldn't have blamed you if you put Gravenberg number 1, or Ekitike number 1, or Grealish number 1, or Slobozai number 1. I think that's a matter of personal preference. And for me, my personal preference is watching Semenyo. But yeah, I think an interesting one, you didn't go with Grealish. That's one I thought would be in your top 10.
Yeah, as you said, it was a very difficult one. I had players like, seeing as was, I'll give you a few honourable mentions. I had Grealish and Timber on my honourable mentions. I think they've been absolutely brilliant so far this season, and that's no disservice to them. I just think that the others have maybe just done that a little bit extra bit, either done a little bit extra bit more, and have just been, you would say, certainly caught the eye, I would say. And that's not players. It's not due to, as I said, that's not due to players like Grealish and Timber being bad. They've been good. It's just, I just think that the others have done a little bit more and they've caught my eye.
That's fair enough. It's fair enough. All right. Well, let's end the episode there. I think it'll be interesting. In 5 or 10 games time, we'll come back and we'll do another ranking. But yeah, Uzzi, thank you very much for this episode.
Thank you very much for having me, Humzah.
Yep. And we'll see everyone later.